Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Game Time YouTube channel. My name is Joe, and I am your host. Men's K-State basketball loses once again, fourth straight loss. All right, to Oklahoma State, 72-75. Got to call this a very disappointing loss, folks. Very disappointing loss. K-State now sits at 4-5 in the Big 12, 14-8 overall. Okay. This was a perfect opportunity for K-State to really somewhat right the ship, at least from a confidence standpoint, to get a W under their belt. They were simply unable to do that. It was definitely a hit to the confidence of this team, and it could definitely lead to more of a downturn, given that this team has a very aggressive schedule coming up, these next 9 games of the season to finish out Big 12 play. So let's kind of get into this. Let's talk about it. You know, what's going on with this team? Okay. If you noticed in this game, we had a slightly different starting five. All right. I think Jerome Tang potentially wanted to mix things up a bit. Also, I believe David Kassan was injured with a knee injury coming into this game. So things got changed around a bit. So Jarrell Colbert started over Will McNair. And then you had Arthur Kaluma, Cam Carter, Tyler Perry, and then Day-Day Ames started. So you had kind of this 3-guard lineup there to start the game. To start the game, I think things were well. I think K-State had, upwards of an 8 to 9 point lead in the first half, kind of relinquished it towards the end of that first half and never got it back. K-State never led the game in the second half, was kind of fighting uphill the whole second half, made it close at the end, but really an uphill battle that second half. Just really weren't getting very many stops. Oklahoma State was able to score quite easily, and while K-State was able to score, just not a lot of defense there in that second half. So what do we see here with this losing streak? After that strong start to the Big 12 play, now I think K-State somewhat hit a wall. And, I think this team is just going to have to figure out a way to get past that. Keep in mind, though, these last 4 games, 3 of the 4 games are against ranked opponents. And if you look at, really the season, as a whole up to this point, K-State is 1-6, versus ranked opponents, this year with its only win against Baylor. So K-State has shown to not really be able to contend with the top 25 team. And that's, testament to the team, right? I don't think this team is a top 25 team. Hence, this team is unlikely to beat very many top 25 teams. And we see that in this 4-game losing streak. Okay. 3 of those 4 are ranked opponents outside of Oklahoma State, of course. Teams have a hard time winning away from home. Okay. Those away games are tough. Oklahoma State game was an away game. So, K-State lost 3 games against ranked opponents and 1 game, an away game. So, looking at it that way, I can't really say the wheels are falling off of this team, but it's not looking good in that you've got to beat an Oklahoma State team that's last place in the Big 12 if your ultimate goal is to make it to the NCAA tournament. That is the type of team that you must be able to beat. It's a bad loss. It's not going to look good for K-State if K-State is on the bubble at the end of the year. I think we knew that this stretch of games, this 4-game stretch, was going to be tough even before any of the games were played. Okay. If you look at that schedule, you'd see that this was probably going to be a tough stretch for K-State. And if you kind of look at some of the talking heads talking about, commentating on K-State this season up to this point, I think you got that sentiment as well from them. Again, K-State is not shown to be a top 25 team. So given this stretch of games, I think you might expect to start to see some losses pile up, which we did see. Definitely an undesired scenario for our team this season. But I think we're seeing that, hey, tough stretch. K-State is not handling it well. If this trend continues, okay, especially the ability to not win those games against ranked opponents, this team might be in trouble. Okay. 6 of the final 9 games, okay, remaining in Big 12 play are against ranked opponents. So if K-State can't, get over that hump and start beating some of these ranked teams, K-State's going to be at risk to miss that NCAA tournament this year. Also to note, of the 3 teams, currently unranked, right, that K-State has left on its season, on its Big 12 season, only one is a home game. All right. So, and that's West Virginia. The other 2 are away games. Okay. So if you look at our trend of, all right, we're not able to beat ranked teams, and, it's very tough to play, away games in this league, K-State is going to have to bump the trend, okay, in these last 9 games. And it's an uphill battle. Okay. That's a challenge. K-State's going to have to be up for that. Also, something to note, of those 6 ranked teams, okay, 4 are home games. So if K-State can win at home, okay, they can beat 4 of those 6 ranked teams. Okay, still may not put them in, to the NCAA tournament. Still, you gotta win those 3 games. Okay, you got to win those other 3 games against the unranked opponents, even if they're not in your house. You got to win those games if you got a shot to make it into the NCAA tournament. I mean, that's K-State's only hope. All right, so what now? All right, 4-game losing streak. K-State somewhat on the downtrend. What now? What do we do? Okay, K-State's going to have to find a way to beat ranked teams. Period. Just going to have to do it. Okay. We got a slate of them coming up. All right. KU is the next game up. Okay. Gonna have to be able to beat teams. Okay. Gonna have to really K-State's going to be the spoiler from here on out. All right. I don't think K-State is going to be favored in very many of its games coming up next. Okay. Gonna have to get some upsets. All right, going to have to beat some teams with a top 25 number next to them. And just going to that's what's going to have to happen. I think the team just has to do that. It's just a given. All right, got to stay healthy, got to stay and get healthy. I think in this game, all right, David Gasson was out. He's a very good defender, very good on-ball defender, very good rim protector, a very good rebounder. I think even though, he's not typically known as a scorer, many games he gets 10 plus points, okay, or close to 10. So he scores enough to make a difference, and he's a very good defender. I think K-State needs him on the floor. Okay, so K-State's going to have to really get healthy. Tyler Perry, I think Tyler Perry's hurt. He's played in every game. He's not missed any games. But one thing I noticed in maybe the last 4 or 5 games, his left hand is heavily taped. And in 1 or 2 games there, I've seen him, clutch that hand. And in one game, I forget which one, he actually went out and I think got it retaped and came back. So I think he's been hurt. Keep in mind, many times, we're not even aware of the various injuries and ailments that these players have. Given our challenge with depth, I believe this is becoming an issue. I think many of the players, we're hot and heavy into the season. I think many players are hurt, and our lack of depth is kind of showing, some of our weaknesses in that, hey, these guys are hurt. They're not able to play, to the level that, they're capable of playing when they're healthy. And I think we're seeing the result of that in some of these losses. One other thing to keep in mind, and you got to kind of keep remembering this, even though we got to move on, right? But, keep in mind, this is not the team that we really expected to see this year. Okay. Naquan Tomlin, he would have been a starter for this team and he would have likely been scoring in double figures. He could have potentially been the star, one of the stars on this team. And we lost him early, never saw him play in a game. That really, even though, hey, I get it, we need to move on. We can't, there's nothing we can do about that. That's severely, I believe, severely handicapped this team. One other area I think, hard to say what Quez Glover, could have contributed to this team. I think we felt like he would contribute well to this team. But, I think the way his injury was taken by the coaches, if you kind of look at, just their body language, it sounds like he was expected to be a pretty large part of the offense. And without him, I think the offense, I think some of the stagnation we see in the offense and some of the, what I'll call the lower end or the mistakes I think we see from the guard play on this team, I think comes from someone like him not being on the floor. Keep in mind he's a senior. He would add experience to that backcourt. He's got slightly a little more size than Tyler Perry, just a little bit more size. And if you kind of look at some of his highlights, he seems to, in my opinion, has a bit more quickness and ability to get to the basket than Tyler Perry does. And I think it would have been a nice addition to our backcourt. With Tyler Perry and Cam Carter, they've got scoring ability, sure. That facilitation of the offense, I think, is lacking. And I think someone like a senior, experienced guy, Quez Glover, could have definitely added to this team. And so I think without those two guys, I think we see, this team is, it's handicapped a bit. And they're able to win games still, sure. And there's definitely talent on the team. But I think the offense doesn't run as smoothly as you would expect. I think because we're missing some of those key pieces that I think we really needed those, I think, to be a high level team in the Big 12 at the top half. I think in some ways we need to go back to the drawing board and figure out how we work and make this team that we have high level. And obviously I think that's what the coaches are doing, So, in closing, okay, how do we get this offense consistent? I think that's been the biggest problem that we've seen. How does this offense get consistent and we're able to move the ball well and make shots and score points within this offense? One thing is, we got to take better shots and we got to make the shots. I think we've talked about this before. I think Coach Tang has mentioned that the team shoots well. Why don't they shoot as well in the games? I think a part of that is the second thing I think that the team needs to do is move the ball better within the offense. If you see the ball movement, a lot of these passes, a lot of lazy passes, the defender just misses stealing the ball in many cases. Okay, so just be more crisp with the passes. I think a lot of those bad, lazy passes lead to turnovers. And, I don't know if that's an effort thing. I don't know if that is a movement thing where the players are potentially out of position to receive the passes as the ball moves, throughout, the offense, through each player's hands, back and forth around the court. I don't know if that's the case, but I noticed that the offense looks very disjointed in many cases. I think the ball is almost stolen many times, as the ball moves around to various players. And, that's something I think the team needs to work on, just better ball movement. Tyler Perry, okay? If we could get Tyler Perry to the free throw line more often, I think that changes things for this team. This last game, he was just 2 for 2 from the free throw line. So he only got to the free throw line twice. The entire team, I think they only took, 7 free throws. Okay. Oklahoma State had, let me check and see. Oklahoma State had, they had 18, free throws. So, you know, Tyler Perry, okay, I get it. I don't believe that his superpower is, getting in the lane with quickness and driving to the hoop. I don't think that's really his superpower as a guard. His superpower is as a 3-point shooter. He's an excellent shooter. So with him carrying the ball and handling the ball a lot like he does, I think instead of getting to the hoop, his focus, I think, needs to be getting fouled. And I can tell he tries to create, fouls and uses his body to get guys out of position. But I noticed a lot of those calls. I mean, he's just not getting those calls. Either he's not getting the calls, or he's not able to position himself to cause physical interaction with the defender to get a foul. I think that's his second superpower. If he gets a lot of fouls, he's an excellent free throw shooter. Okay, at the free throw line, he's automatic. He needs to be getting into the lane and handling the ball and driving to the hoop in order to get fouled, okay, and get to the free throw line. I think if we can get him to the free throw line a lot more than we are, of course, he's going to score more points there. Other teams going to, their guards are going to load up on fouls. Their big men are going to load up on fouls, trying to prevent Tyler Perry from getting into the lane. And then obviously, once he gets there, he's going to have to be able to have that vision to potentially create assists. I think that's something that he's developing. But to be honest, I mean, if he can just get fouled, okay, that's huge. Just get fouled. Okay. So, I think, a large part of this game is mental. All right. And we hear a lot about effort. I think this last press conference, I think the gist that you got from Coach Tang was that maybe he didn't see the effort that he would like to have seen. And, in any team sport, I think the challenge is, effort is a mental thing. Okay, when you're talking a full season, you're trying to keep someone consistent throughout not only an entire game, okay, but an entire season of multiple games. And, outside of any physical ability, that is a huge challenge. A lot of guys have the physical ability, okay? They all do, in fact, to get to this level. But in many cases, you're lacking that consistency. That's all mental. You got to come to play every game of the season. Okay. And those that can come to play every game and do it at a high level, that kind of differentiates the good players from the great players. And that's something that's kind of difficult to assess. We're getting all these guys from the transfer portal and, they've played well, but how do you really know, I guess, how consistent they can be, when they're hurt, or how consistent they can be when, maybe some other guys on their team aren't consistent. How will they respond? Some guys are consistent because they've got 2 or 3 other guys on the team that are consistent and they're just following the lead of those other guys. Can this guy be consistent without the consistency of other guys on his team? Okay. Can he create the consistency that feeds and bleeds over to the other guys? With team sports, you can't, it's not just you. The whole team has to have, what I'll call the mental fortitude to continue and play these games, even when you're tired, even when you're hurt. Okay. Even when it's cold outside and you don't feel like, traveling or, all of these types of things, even when you're mad at your coach or mad at your teammates, okay, or mad at your girlfriend or boyfriend, right? You have to continue to be able to go out there and play at a high level. I think that's more difficult than people realize. It's very, very difficult to do. And it's something that differentiates the high level competitive players with just the, mediocre or just good players. And, we're going to have to see that type of skill set from these guys at this point. Okay. Midway through the season, everybody's a little hurt. Everybody's a little dinged up. Okay. Everybody's a little sore. Who's going to come to play for real? Who's going to come to play for real? And I think that's, where we're at the point in this season. We're seeing these guys, they're not playing, I don't want to say they're not playing well. They're not playing well enough to win as a team. Let's put it like that. And, they're going to have to find a way to do it. It's not impossible. This team can still make it to the NCAA tournament. They're going to have to upset some teams, though, because we've got some bad losses on our resume here. So we're going to have to upset some teams, but it can be done. Okay. And I think the coaches see that. There's frustration there. Really, the challenge is how you're going to respond to this adversity. How is this team going to respond to this adversity? And we're going to find out Monday. This team plays number 9, KU. Okay. We're going to find out who's got it and who doesn't. So, all right, guys, that's all I got for today. Thanks for listening.